Welcome to the Puzzle People Pod. We're here today with Lisa and William, who are otherwise known as Orange County Speed Puzzlers, or OCSP. I'm sure many of you went to nationals or watched the live stream and will remember William as the gentleman in the Mickey ears, leading the volunteers and keeping order with his puzzle tray measuring stick. Who could forget? Beyond organizing speed puzzle events, Lisa and William also organized some pretty epic puzzle swaps, from what I hear. And our conversation today is around why winning isn't everything, the benefits of showing up even if you have no chance. Thank you, Lisa and William, for being here.
Thank you for having us.
So, William, I know that you and your Mickey ears were a bit of an icon this nationals. You not only organized the volunteers, but I saw you participating as well. Is that correct? Can I hear a little bit about your involvement with speed puzzling as a speed puzzler?
Sure. So my puzzle buddy several years ago, her name is Maggie. She saw the post for Nationals of 2022, and she said, "This looks like fun. Do you want to do it?" And so we immediately said yes to each other, and we started practicing, knowing that we weren't going to place very high. But our goal at the time for 2022's Nationals was just to rank in the top 50th percentile of teams and simply to beat 90 minutes to complete a 500-piece puzzle. And we were happy to have done so. And we both live local to the Orange County area. So we, of course, have Mickey ears and plenty of sets each, since we both enjoy the world of Disney, we'll say. And so we wore Mickey ears and we were the team Puzzle Ears. And my parents said, "Look, on the live stream, we were instantly able to find you." So that was like the best thing I could have worn, just more for wayfinding on the live stream. And then fast forward to 2023, I was invited by the USA JPA board to be a volunteer, a year-round volunteer. And so I assist with the member highlights on the USA JPA website. And when it came to finding a role for me, a more expanded volunteer role at Nationals, after a lot of back and forth with the board, we were really intentional in finding a role that I could support for the full weekend, but still be able to compete as an individual. And so it was determined that being the room manager in charge of the safety of all the competitors, and then just the efficiency of the room, as well as training all of the volunteer judges, was just going to be a perfect fit. And they said that there was one stipulation, that if I was to be the room manager, I had to wear the Mickey ears again, because it was so easy for the board to say, "Oh, you're a volunteer with a question? Perfect. Go find William. He's wearing Mickey ears. He'll answer your question." So that is kind of the way that continued on. And so now it's more of a branding thing, I guess, as I roll my eyes at myself. But it's great. So when I head to Worlds in a week or so, I'm going to be able to wear those Mickey ears. And once again, my parents will have a great, easy time finding me on the live stream.
Lisa, what about you? Are you also a competitor, or are you more on the organization side?
Yes, I am a competitor. I was also at Nationals in 2022 with my pairs partner, and that's the only event I competed in was pairs. And I had so much fun doing that. And then we went ahead after that and started Orange County Speed Puzzlers. And then I could not compete in my own competition, so I go and compete in other competitions in other areas. But I was again at Nationals this past March as a competitor, and I did teams and pairs, and I also volunteered. I was also one of the room volunteers underneath William and helped him out with training the volunteer judges, since that's what I do at Orange County Speed Puzzlers. So I kind of assisted him in doing that as well. But I also compete at least once a month in local competitions.
Maybe we could back up and you could give this is to both of you, about how Orange County Speed Puzzlers started. What is it? What kind of activities do you host?
Sure. So it all came as a result of us attending Nationals in 2022, and all of the local Orange County puzzlers who we had already been friends with and acquaintances with through all the swaps that we had been doing for a couple of years. We all attended that, had a great time. Some competed, some just attended just to enjoy the time without competing. And after one of our swaps, after nationals, we always go to lunch after the swaps, a group of us. And we were talking about at lunch how fun nationals was. And we'd love to continue to compete on a regular basis, more than just once a year. And people were just saying, boy, somebody needs to start something like that here in Orange County, because that took place in San Diego. And that's where the local competitions that were happening occurred at the time. And so people were saying, somebody needs to do that. And it was a lot of, yeah, somebody needs to do that, but nobody was saying, sure, I'll do it. And so William and I kind of caught each other's eye behind somebody else's head and kind of nodded at each other and knew we'd be talking shortly. And we got on the phone after that and immediately jumped into action and began setting the groundwork for forming Orange County Speed Puzzlers.
Our theme today is on how winning isn't everything. And so I want to just start. I don't know how good you both are as speed puzzlers. When you first attended, were you convinced that you were going to win the whole thing? Or, what made you go for the first time? And everybody is shaking their head and laughing. So what was the attitude going in? I'm just curious.
For me, attending nationals again with my friend Maggie, it was just about being part of the community. And this was 2022. So safer at home orders were starting to relax a bit, and everyone was desperate for some interaction in person. And this was just so perfect because my brother and I had been doing a lot of puzzling during safer at home orders. And to be able to kind of expand that now into a pseudo sport seemed super fun. And getting to take this fun leisure activity and make it more of a communal activity was really intriguing to me. And so that's why I first went. Again, Maggie and I, our goal was just 50th percentile or higher, which was perfect. We got 42nd place that year. We were very proud of that. But over the years, again, it's only been really 2 years that I've been competing, but there's more and more people who are finding the sport. And so my times or my rankings are going further and further down, and that doesn't bother me whatsoever. I've always been someone who's enjoyed creating special moments or creating moments for others, whether that's me creating scavenger hunts for friends and family, just like around my hometown, or just like kind of doing escape rooms. I love those moments of communal excitement or communal fun. And being able to be more on the organizing side with Lisa for Orange County Speed Puzzlers, that's really where I find joy. And so for me, when you talk about just showing up and being okay with that, like that's literally what I do. And I enjoy it so much as being part of the community. I think Lisa will agree, the amount of time we end up spending, let's say every week, on organizing various events, it's substantial. And what that takes to do for the community, it's a lot of work, but it absolutely is a labor of love.
I agree. I went to the first nationals just to experience it and have fun. My partner and I think we're the second to the last team that finished within the time allotment. So we had no delusions of grandeur of winning the whole thing. So we were just excited that when we finished, and I think we were the last pair of our local group to finish. So by that point, everybody from Orange County Speed Puzzlers, or soon to be Orange County Speed Puzzlers, who had already finished, were all gathered outside of the rope area, standing by us, waiting for us to finish and cheering us on. And when we finished, you would have thought we had won. Everybody was screaming and yay, because we did it within the time. But I'm very competitive. I mean, don't get me wrong. I was an athlete in my youth, in school, going elementary school and high school. I played sports. So when I do something, I want to win, but I knew it's not going to happen. But while I'm competing, I'm competitive. I'm really pushing myself and my teammate and just trying to do the best that we can. So that's my little competitive outlet, even though I know I'm not going to win. But after that, it's just fueled the fire, and I wanted to keep doing it more and more. And formed other teams, and I compete in local competitions now. And I mean, I just competed in one Monday night, and my team won. So we're getting better. And I say I'm a pretty good local puzzler, but once we get on the national stage, forget it.
I was about to say the same thing. Lisa and I have had a chance to compete in local competitions, let's say that have been put on by libraries who've seen the sport and are trying to replicate it for themselves. So we love that the sport is kind of growing and getting more visibility. And again, we want to find like sister organizations in our local Los Angeles area who are outside of Orange County. And so being able to compete together has been so much fun for us. And when Lisa just made the comment about, I'm a really good local puzzler, I was thinking, yes, that's exactly what it is. Because when we go to the library, we've swept it twice now, or is it 3 times? 3 times. And so it's super fun for us. Like, hooray, we're first place. We know it's a very small population. And as soon as we get to nationals, that all goes away. But it's still fun to win.
And I feel like that when we get out of the local competing for ourselves and then we become Orange County Speed Puzzlers, we take on a different mindset of we want to put on the best competition that we can. And I think nationally, we're among the best. I'm just going to toot my own horn there. I think we put on a very good event for people to come to that they enjoy. And I get excitement and pleasure out of providing that. I don't know if it's a thing from being a mom, because I enjoyed putting on parties and events and things for my kids. And I would get such joy when I'd see the smiles on my kids' faces when they would do something that I created for them. And I get the same sort of pleasure when I see the puzzlers are all excited when we say go and they're opening their puzzle, and the commotion that you hear when a competition starts and the excitement in the air. I get such a thrill from that. So it's fun to create that type of event.
What draws you to puzzles, and then sort of secondarily, what draws you to organizing puzzle events? Is there something unique about the community or just puzzling in general that has attracted your attention?
I think the community is amazing. The puzzle community that we service are a bunch of selfless,
Giving.
kind-hearted, generous, amazing, friendly, fun people. And to be a part of that, regardless of what we do, I mean, it started with swaps and then to our events, to be part of that is fun. And it feels good to have so many people like that around you, and it makes you feel better about yourself being part of a community like that. So just being able to do something with that group, I think, is the first thing.
I think that brings me to my next thought, and I'm curious to hear how you feel about it as an organizer. But I think to the point that there's so many different types of people and personalities who engage in the speed puzzle community. That said, it might be intimidating, I think, to come into, especially if you've only watched, say, nationals or an event, the live stream. So this is again about the benefits of showing up. So do you have any tips or advice for someone who maybe is curious about coming, but a little nervous just because it does feel very big and daunting?
Absolutely. I would say that's the number one response to somebody new that learns about speed puzzling and hears about one of our events, and we'll get an email or a post in our Facebook page, and they'll say, I discovered puzzling and I've learned about this and I'd love to try it, but I don't think I'm very fast. I don't think I'm very good. I'm really nervous. I'm not going to do well at all. And we say it doesn't matter. We have people of all levels at our competitions. We have people that don't finish in the allotted time period. We have people that will finish in unbelievably fast times and everything in between. But it's all about, if you talk about, it's just, doesn't matter if you win or lose, that this is the perfect example of it's all about being part of the community and enjoying the fun. Because when you're at the event, there's so many other things that happen at our events besides speed puzzling. There's the socializing, there's the meeting new people. And what we often recommend to people that are interested is that they come and volunteer at one of our events, because then they get to see what goes on. They get to be familiarized with the whole process. They get to meet all the other volunteers because there are a lot of repeat volunteers that we have who just come back to volunteer because they like that part of it and they don't want to compete, but they want to be part of the event. So the veterans, so to speak, volunteers will help them out, encourage them, explain how things work. They meet the volunteers, they meet the other puzzlers, and then they always come back and say, that was really fun. I really felt welcome. I really had a good time. I'd like to volunteer again, or I'm going to try and compete next time. So I think that's the best way for people to get involved in speed puzzling is to go check out an event, either volunteer or watch. But I think volunteering is the best way too, to see what happens. Even the same at Nationals. Nationals needs lots of volunteers every time they have an event. And that's just a great way to experience it all and meet everybody.
Maybe you can explain what volunteering looks like at a either puzzle swap or a competition. What are sort of the things people do when they're volunteering?
For volunteers at Orange County Speed Puzzler events, it starts really with helping us set the room. The tables and chairs are there ready to go, but it's placing out the puzzles that are bagged and sealed and welcoming the competitors as they first come in. We have everyone arrive at a certain time after we're done setting up. Lisa's already given a talk down of the different judging responsibilities. And that's really what we focus on for Orange County Speed Puzzlers is making sure that we have enough timing judges. The worst thing that could happen is a team is getting ready to finish and there not be a judge ready to capture their final time and seeing the time clock on the wall and capturing that time exactly. So we always ensure, based on the number of teams we have, that we have enough volunteer judges. And so that is a really important aspect of our competitions. And so it's interesting, and I think Lisa would agree, that's the most intimidating part of volunteering is our new judges being worried that they're going to get the judging aspect wrong of this is such a big deal that they get the exact right time, and they're always very nervous when we tell them that. We say, it's going to be totally fine. We'll be right there to help you for the first couple, and by the second or third time, like, oh, I got this, everything's good. So it's really funny to see that kind of angst that they have around it, and then it immediately goes away because that's such a celebratory and fun atmosphere. And there really is a small learning curve to doing volunteer judging. We also have a swap table going on at most of our competitions. So those volunteers are also helping process the puzzles, is what we call them. They come to a table where their puzzle is validated as being fully complete. We never want incomplete puzzles at those swaps. We always want high quality puzzles at those swaps. So it's a great experience for everyone. And so we train them on how to validate complete puzzles, and then we help them get or find new puzzles for them as at the swap tables. And so it's just like Lisa said, there's so much more at those competitions than just the competition itself.
I'm curious what that validation process looks like. Are you forcing people to do full puzzles and then putting it back in the box, or how do you validate a complete puzzle?
So the process of validating is the puzzlers have to verify that a puzzle is complete when they drop it off at the check-in table. They have to say that they've completed it themselves and know that there are no missing pieces, or it has to be a sealed brand new puzzle. When they drop it off, they have to put their name on a Post-it on the outside of the puzzle box. That we include Post-its in the packet on every puzzler's table, so they can just write their name on the Post-it and put it on the puzzle. And the reason for doing that is that when somebody does pick up the puzzle that was dropped off, that they want that to be now their puzzle that they've traded for. If there is a problem with the puzzle, they know who to contact to hopefully try and rectify the issue if it can be. So it's a pretty easy process, but we do want to make sure that every puzzle, that all the pieces are accounted for. And the people checking in the puzzle, we ask them to not accept puzzles that are of poor quality. We try to make this a quality puzzle swap table.
We talked about how winning is great, but it's not everything, and that there's a lot going on at these events. So sometimes it's just fun to show up and participate. what would you say the vibe is at the puzzle events that you've organized? Like, again, I know that, something like nationals or worlds is really big and intimidating. And you all started kind of doing things a little more local. And I'm sure, these puzzle swaps and also speed puzzle events have kind of popped up all over. So if you're not ready to necessarily head to nationals, you can go to a local event. And I'm curious to hear, what do you think that the vibe is like? Like, do you think that the vibe is different from the local events to the big national events?
When it comes to the vibe of Orange County Speed Puzzler events compared to more like the nationals or worlds, it's interesting because we've gotten a lot of feedback on that. We try to really we cater Orange County Speed Puzzler events more towards those who are newer. And the way we show that is when our puzzle pros finish very quickly. We're talking like a 500-piece puzzle, anywhere from 15 to 25 minutes. We do our best to keep the noise level or the talking level at a whisper after they've competed because of the number of first-time teams that we see at Orange County Speed Puzzlers. And that's so they can focus. If it was a loud room, those puzzlers who are kind of struggling towards the end or are getting closer towards the end, but just need to focus a little bit. They didn't bring headphones, let's say. They need a quieter environment in order to really focus and dig in. So that is what we've actually witnessed is our Orange County Speed Puzzlers are understanding of these newer teams really wanting to be able to focus. So it's not a museum afterwards as far as noise level, but it's something that we definitely keep in mind. So that's definitely different. We do tell people, like, from our script when we start the competition, you're more than welcome to celebrate for a few seconds and take photos, but please don't cause any further distractions to surrounding teams. And that's different from Worlds or Nationals, where everyone's going crazy, and then it immediately turns into a chat session with everyone. But I mean, Nationals does do a good job of asking competitors who have completed their puzzles to step outside the competition space, just to allow a little bit of ability for people to continue focusing. So Lisa, would you agree that we try to focus it more towards those first timers, but we also do a really good job of balancing towards the puzzle pros, right?
I think so. I think we're a good happy medium, and we're good at reading the room, because I remember we held a competition for first timers that we called first timers. And that was because our competitions were selling out so fast that a lot of people were saying, gosh, I can't get in. I can't, I want to compete. So we held a competition only for people who have never competed in one of ours. And we call it the first timers. And the vibe in that room was totally crazy and completely different. Everybody was so excited. The noise level was really loud, and we just let it go because the excitement was a good vibe for that group. And so I think that's an example of reading the room for doing what's best for the crowd that you have. But if we have I would say our next competition is a pairs competition. We've got a lot of our regulars back with that one. And I think people will be back from Worlds, and I think they'll really be into competing and focusing and really wanting to work on their time. And I have a feeling that's one that we might have to, keep an eye on the noise level a little bit more. So I think it's up and down, but I think we're a good happy medium between like a first time competition versus nationals.
I think that's a really good a notion to chat about, because Lisa and I come from completely different different backgrounds, but the level of partnership that the two of us have when it comes to all aspects of Orange County Speed Puzzlers, or even teaming up sometimes, it takes a lot of work to have two people agree on so much. And so I would say that that's what I appreciate most about working with Lisa, is our ability, as she would say, is to find the middle. And we really do a good job of analyzing, understanding. We take time to be really thoughtful in our decision making with everything Orange County Speed Puzzlers. And so we always do our best to come to the middle when it comes to making decisions. And I think that's the work that people see in our events. And that's what we get a lot of compliments on. And that's what I really appreciate about all the work that we get to put in, is that there's such a great level of payoff.
I think this is a great moment to take a break where we pause the conversation with William and Lisa to meet someone in the puzzling community. It might be someone you know. And when we return, we'll be hearing more about how you can get involved beyond participating in a speed event, maybe even get some tips if you want to run your own speed puzzling event. What are some helpful things to consider and keep in mind? So stay tuned. It's time for Meet the Puzzler. A huge part of why we wanted to start this podcast is because when we're filming, we often meet a lot of people but don't get the opportunity to get to know them. Today's puzzler is a little different. Her name is Joni, and she tends to puzzle by herself. She's also a house mom for a sorority, and she reached out on Instagram and asked if she could be included. We love sharing all sorts of puzzle stories, and this one's hers. I emailed her and asked her to share a little bit about herself, to introduce how long she's been puzzling, if she competes, her favorite thing about puzzling, and to tell us a little bit about her puzzle collection. Here's what she said.
Hi, my name's Joni, and I've been puzzling for over 12 years. I do not compete in puzzle competitions. They kind of scare the liver out of me. Uh, I've gone to one, and I did that mostly just to be able to observe and see what it was all about. It was kind of a low-key one put on by the Puzzle Warehouse in St. Louis. So that was perfect for me. I met a lot of people. I watched a puzzle chess competition, which in the back of my mind, I thought, oh, surely I could do that. But I'd have to practice a long time, I think. My favorite thing about puzzling is the quiet nature of it. I puzzle alone. I've never been in a situation where I would puzzle with another person, but I think I could do that if they felt as low key about it as I do. I have a puzzle collection. I've told people this, and I've read online that other people say I could pass away tomorrow and never do all the puzzles that I have. There's just something about finding one that that's been on my bucket or wish list, or seeing one that's part of a collection that I've been trying to finish. For example, I have a Disney collection of Mickey puzzles. I don't know how recently it came out. I have 4, and I believe there's 5. So I'm sort of always looking for that needle in a haystack, as it were. Being a sorority house mom, it was interesting to me when I first started that our members really reminisce and think fondly of the times that they've been able to puzzle with their parents, usually at holiday time, or with their grandparents. That's how they got started. I'll hear a lot, oh, I love puzzling. I did put out a couple of puzzles last year during finals, thinking that might be a great way for members to relax and kind of come and do a few puzzles in our dining room in between tests or in between study, just as a study break. Interestingly, one of my members came down for a little while, went back upstairs, but then the next morning told me that she awakened during the night and kept thinking about the puzzle, and so she came down and finished it. The only other thing I'd add is that I said that I'd been doing puzzles for a little over 12 years, but that's really when I became a house mom. I will say that puzzling was not on my radar until I asked our chef at my first house what he was doing over the holiday, over winter break. And he told me he was going to be in his basement with a giant piece of plexiglass working on a 2,000-piece jigsaw puzzle. And I remember thinking, wow, that sounds great, except 2,000 pieces. I couldn't even imagine it. So that week, I went to a thrift store and I found a jigsaw puzzle. And I thought, well, I'm going to give this a try. It was only 500 pieces. And there was something about it that just made me know automatically I needed to do the edges. So um, I don't know if that's innate. I mean, if everybody knows that that's what you do. Um, but I finished that puzzle. It wasn't necessarily something I would have purchased under ordinary circumstances, but it was a lot of fun. So I kept working on 500 pieces and going online and finding pictures that I really did like. And that's how I found Ravensburger or Ravensburger, as I'm realizing I've been mispronouncing it. But, and then one day I just thought, this 500 piece thing is a good deal, but I think I could do more. So that led me to 1,000. And I can't say that I have done 1,500 pieces. And I thought that was a pretty big stretch, partly because I had no place to do 1,500, but I kind of made it work. This has been a fun experience for me. It's a solitary, as I've already said, it's a solitary thing for me. But every day or every evening when I have a chance to sit down, it's something that I really enjoy. Plus, I can listen to a book on Audible, or I can keep one eye on my puzzle and one eye on Love Island. So yeah, I wanted to say how I got started. Emily, I really appreciate this. I've been looking forward to it and can't wait to see your documentary and start to listen to your podcast. Thank you.
Joni, thank you so much for your support and for being on our first season of the Puzzle People Pod. We really hope you'll keep up with us, and we look forward to hearing more about what kind of puzzles you get up to. Definitely keep us posted. And now, back to the pod. So we're back with William and Lisa, and when we were last speaking, they were talking about all the things that they do right, including reading the room, having a beginner-only event, so that way it's a little bit less daunting for those who are first-timers who want to try speed puzzling. And now I want to talk a little bit about if somebody out there listening wants to organize an event of their own, be it a birthday party speed puzzling event, or maybe something a little bit bigger. What is the first piece of advice that you have when it comes to running an event?
My first piece of advice when it comes to wanting to run your own event is to become a USA Jigsaw member, because on the website, they literally list everything you need to know about hosting your own event. And as silly as it sounds, whenever we get a question on Instagram about that very question, we always pass people off to the USA Jigsaw Puzzle website from a consistency standpoint. And again, I know that sounds silly, but that's truly the first thing that we say, because there is a start to finish list of things that you need to do as an organizer. And that is the most comprehensive place that you can go as an event organizer to get started.
Just get a little more specific about the things that they suggest on their website, and totally agree that all of those things are important things to consider about the room size, your table size, making sure that your table size is correct for the event that you're hosting, whether it be individuals, pairs, or teams, that you have a visible clock so that everybody can see what their time is or how much time is left. Having judges there to record your time, just all things that are pretty basic to a competition, but you might not be able to remember them all. It's a great resource to use.
I think a lot of what is the right thing to do when hosting your own competition is also figuring out for your event what the not right thing to do is. For an example, you don't want to have a puzzle that's, let's say, 750 pieces or 1,000-piece puzzle for beginners. You also need to know your audience. If you have no puzzle pros, let's say, and it's all like this is your first event, don't bite off more than you can chew. Start off small. So Emily, when you asked a moment ago if it's going to be a small event or if they want to do something bigger, don't do that bigger one first. Start small, learn what you're capable of doing, don't over deliver, and then be able to just have a perfect first event and then decide if you want to grow from there.
It's definitely a lot of trial and error. We've tried some things and we're like, well, won't be doing that one again. So, I mean, you learn the more that you do.
We've talked a lot about speed puzzle competitions, but do you have any advice or guidelines you try to follow for your swaps? I know we talked about obviously verification of puzzles, right? Are there any other things you would advise on for those swaps?
The swaps are definitely more laid back, and it's more things like don't trade missing pieces puzzles without informing the person that they're missing, put the Ziploc bags in, just simple rules like that I post. And then everybody just does their own things. Some, they'll come and people set up tables, they'll set up on a blanket, they'll put things in boxes. It's however they want to do it. And then it's to basically have fun, go around and swap puzzles with everybody. And it's just much more of a social time than the competitions are. But it's equally as fun. And yeah, it's the same community in both events. So everybody knows each other and we have a great time.
Do you find that the puzzle community is overwhelmingly like honest, supportive? Are there adjectives that you would give the people that you've met who have come to your events?
Generous.
Generous.
I love it.
Said in unison. Couldn't agree more. When I first started swapping at Lisa's events, this was, I think, December of 21. Oh my goodness, Lisa. I think I brought 12 puzzles with me, which now I'm thinking, 12 puzzles, that's a lot. I don't even have time for that anymore with all the event organizing. But I came home with 18 puzzles because there were so many people who said, oh, I'm doing 2 for 1, as in I get 1 new one from you and you're taking 2 of mine. You can't take less than 1. You have to take 2. And so when I came home with 18 puzzles, I'm thinking, oh goodness, I have to find room for this. I think at the moment I have 85 Ravensburger puzzles sitting, waiting to be done, which is a lot compared to some people and nothing compared to others. So again, that's all just through giving. People are just very, very generous. And I'm at the point now where I'm doing that 2 for 1, where people you can tell they're at Lisa Swaps and they're newer, or they just came out of the grocery store and they're like, what's happening over here? And they come by and then they literally walk away with 5 or 6 puzzles themselves and they didn't even have anything to trade. And they just stumbled upon it and now they're hooked. Or Lisa, how about that time that we went out to lunch afterwards and our server.
Oh gosh, yes. That was awesome. We, like I said, we always go to lunch after, and we were in a mall parking lot in the back. And we went into one of the restaurants in the mall after for lunch, and we'd been there several times. So the server recognized us. She said, oh, you're the puzzle people. And we said, yeah, we just had a swap. And she said, oh, I love doing puzzles. And William said, do we have any left over? And because we do a donation, we have a tarp that we lay out for donations for people to put their puzzles if they don't want them. And then we take them to places like senior centers, thrift stores, friends of the library. So we donate puzzles. So I always come home with a huge trunk load of puzzles to donate. And William said, do we have any puzzles out there that we could give her? And I said, oh, sure. So I ran out. I grabbed like 3 or 4 and came back in. And when she came back to bring our drinks, I said, here, pick one. And she couldn't believe it. And I said, yeah, and come to our next puzzle swap because we come back here once or twice a year. So she joined our group. And so she's now in our puzzle swap group trading with us.
I guess speaking of hosting events, are there goals that you have for the Orange County Speed Puzzlers? Are there things that you aspire to? Do you want to host more events? Are you happy where you're at currently?
Well, we are currently in the planning stages of hosting a big fundraiser event that's happening in February of next year. It's called the 24-Hour Puzzle Marathon. And we It is a fundraiser that will benefit the City of Hope, and it's something that we see that happens. I don't know how long it's been going on, but it happens in the 24-hour event happens in Belgium every year, where they have teams of, well, I don't know how big their teams are, but ours are teams of 8 puzzling over 24 hours. And at any given time, 4 of the 8 will be at the table puzzling. And it's a race to see how many puzzles they can get done in that period. And we've asked our teams to do fundraising on behalf of the City of Hope. So we are currently organizing that, and that's our big focus right now, gearing towards that, as well as doing our bi-monthly competitions.
For me, it's really about listening to what the community needs or wants. And the way that this 24-hour marathon came to be is me having gone back after one of the competitions at Nationals. I went back upstairs to my hotel room and was decompressing from the day of judging and watching the live stream back because I didn't get to see the live stream. I'm on the floor. And there was a moment where board members Val and Allie were having a conversation about them really wanting to do the 24-hour Belgium competition. And I was listening to this, and they were also mentioning that just timing never really works out because it would be right after Worlds that they'd have to extend by like a month and then stay in Belgium. And it was complicated. It's a great event, by the way, that sells out all the time. There's this huge waiting list, like 118 teams of 8. So I'm thinking, I need to ask Lisa, we're talking about more than, don't bite off more than you can chew, but like, can we do this? And people seem to want this. When Val and Allie are saying like, hey, we want to do this, are we the ones to do this? Should we make this happen? Is this something the community would like? And when Lisa was talking about, well, why don't we put a spin on it and make it a fundraiser event as well? Because we're not sure that there's one in Minnesota. We know that there's a group who do an all-day puzzle-thon from like sunup to sundown in fighting Alzheimer's. So like in support of fundraising for Alzheimer's, The Longest Day, that is, I think, with Leslie Mallory. So I think that's one of the big ones. We're not sure of any other puzzle fundraisers. So we thought, let's give this a try. And so that's where that came from. And so far, we have 8 teams who are signed up for this. There's room for more. So visit orangecountyspeedpuzzlers.com, if I may, to form a team of 8 and join us. As of recording, we're at $2,500 raised. So we're a quarter of our way through our goal. So
Can I add, while we've been talking, we just got a donation. I just wanted to let you know.
we're over $2,500.
I think kind of just wrapping things up, I want to go back to what William said as far as watching garbage TV while he puzzles. And so I'm looking for either garbage TV recommendations or book recommendations, podcast recommendations. What do we like to listen to while we puzzle?
Okay, so get ready for this dissertation with all the things I like to do while puzzling. So when I say garbage TV, sometimes it's silly. Like I have my garbage reality shows like Big Brother, Amazing Race, Survivor that I like watching. But sometimes I find like, I actually have to watch this because I care too much. So instead, I'll put on what I call now blasts from the past to puzzle. The best recommendation I can give is watching TV shows that are more verbal humor or like auditory humor and not so much like Carol Burnett show where you have to like really watch it, because I did the Carol Burnett show, but I had to stop puzzling and watch a lot. Third Rock from the Sun was the first one that I watched, and it was the perfect one because it was all verbal comedy with misinterpretations from aliens not understanding the English language. And so, of course, you can imagine like that was the perfect fit. But then going back to things like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air or Family Matters. Right now I'm on the Dick Van Dyke Show. I had finished the Carol Burnett Show. So these more blasts from the pasts are what I'm able to focus on. But then sometimes I'll listen to Karen Puzzles and like listen to her YouTube channel. You'd think you'd have to always watch the puzzles, but like when she's doing her Worlds recap, it's actually kind of perfect to listen to and go back and listen to different strategies that she has or that she sees in others.
And I'm the opposite. I'm a quiet puzzler for the most part. Sometimes I'll put on music, but most of the time I puzzle in silence. Although during the Olympics, I set up my iPad on my puzzle table and I was watching the Olympics while I was puzzling. But then just recently, much to my surprise, I tried putting on, because I noticed at nationals a lot of puzzlers had earbuds in. And so I thought, well, I'm going to give this a shot. And at a local competition a couple weeks ago, I noticed that they were playing what I thought was amazing music. It was 70s rock. And I was flying. We didn't win. We got second place. But I noticed that I was puzzling much faster. I was, doing my head banging and I'm puzzling and the pieces were just going in one after another. And I thought, well, this is interesting. So when I got home, I tried puzzling with earbuds in, and I couldn't do it with 2 earbuds because then I couldn't hear anything else. So I said, I'm going to try puzzling with 1 earbud at our last competition so I could still hear my teammates, because we talk while we puzzle. And so I put in 1 earbud on the outer ear that wasn't on the side with the teammate. And the same thing happened. I put really fast, fun music, and I felt like I was flying. And we won. Now, I don't think we won because of my, speed puzzling playlist, but I just felt I went faster. So this is something that I'm going to continue to explore. Now, I don't always, like today I was puzzling this morning and I had nothing on because I wasn't speed puzzling, but something I'm going to explore as I practice speed puzzling, because my team is getting ready to go to the California State Championships. So when I practice for that, I'm going to see how this music continues to work for me.
These answers were really fun. So we're gonna have a poll on our Instagram, asking, what do you like to listen to? Please weigh in. TV, podcast, book, nothing. And then I'm also probably gonna do like one of those little question things. So tell us what you are puzzling and listening to. Thank you both so much. This was a really great conversation about volunteering and meeting the community. And if you enjoyed this episode, we hope you'll share it with your friends. You can find us on Instagram at @PuzzlePeopleDoc.
And if you know someone who you think would make a great guest, reach out to us. You can reach us at ben@chickenwingpictures.com.